Hey, family, welcome back to Fridays by the Fire. This is Sandi BestLife Jones. It's so good to be with you tonight. I trust and believe that all of you have had an amazing week. I know that I have, and that next week is going to be even better. Tonight's episode of Fridays by the Fire is, to me, about one of the quietest, bravest forms of homecoming. And we know we're in our homecoming season, this particular season of Fridays by the Fire and Girl Talk Sunday. And so to me, this form of homecoming it's not the kind that comes after betrayal. It's not the kind that follows chaos or a heartbreak, but it's the kind that happens when clarity, it just kind of gently taps you on the shoulder and says, this season has probably reached its end. And I know that we've all experienced this. I know I have. I don't know anybody that hasn't experienced the end of a season. But it can happen quietly. It doesn't have to always be loud. The hurt doesn't have to always be loud. It could just be that you outgrew the situation. So we're going to look at what that looks like for some of us and how we tie that into coming home to ourselves. All right, so let's get into it. Part one: when nothing is wrong, but ain't nothing right either. I don't know how many of you have been there, but I have. And I don't think we talk enough about relationships or connections that, they're not really toxic, but they are definitely misaligned. So it's like nobody lied, nobody manipulated, nobody cheated, nobody did anything quote unquote wrong. But over time, something inside you, it's that inner knowing that starts to whisper, this right here don't fit me no more. Sometimes it's a romantic relationship, sometimes it's a friendship, sometimes it's a family relationship. It can be any of the ships. And here's the hard part: clarity doesn't always come with drama. And I think that's why sometimes we stay in expired relationships longer than we should, because sometimes it don't come with drama. Sometimes it arrives with peace and discomfort at the same time. Please let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced peace and discomfort at the same time. So the homecoming part of it begins when you stop asking, is this allowed? And then you start asking, is this sustainable for who I am becoming? Can I sustain this, the stagnation of this relationship, as I become the best version of myself, which is the version that God created? That's the question that I had to ask myself. And I would venture to guess that a lot of you have had to ask that same question. Point two: when clarity changes the assignment. I believe that there comes a moment in every woman's life when you realize something simple, but very, very powerful. More time might deepen the attachment, but it won't change the direction of the relationship. Now, I'll need y'all to sit with that for a minute. Let that settle into your spirit. Because here is what I know to be true. Time can strengthen bonds, and proximity can intensify feelings, and consistency, because we like that. Women like that. Consistency can create emotional safety. But none of those things automatically create alignment. And wisdom knows, grown woman wisdom knows when to stop feeding something emotionally that cannot grow structurally. And that's not your fear talking, baby. That's discernment. So homecoming is recognizing when your heart needs rest, not more effort. You done put in all the effort you can possibly put in. Now it's time to rest. And that's the homecoming piece of all of this. Part 3, or point 3. The difference between connection and destination. Now, let me just say, some connections are real. It's real. The chemistry is real. The connection is real. The emotional bond is real. But that doesn't mean it's meant to be permanent. I think it's meant to teach you what you value. It's meant to teach you how you bond or your attachment style. It's meant to teach you where your limits are. But the lesson is not learned by staying longer. The lesson is learned by leaving well. No drama, no anger. You release what no longer serves you with love. Because here is what I know again to be true. There is a difference between enjoying connection and building a future. There is a huge difference. So I'm going to say that again. There is a difference between enjoying connection and building a future. And maturity is knowing which one you're in without trying to force it to be something else. So the homecoming piece of that is choosing honesty over hope that keeps moving the goalpost over and over and over and over and over. You got to get real with yourself. You got to get honest with yourself and with the other person. I hope that makes sense. Point 4, quiet boundaries are still boundaries. One of the most powerful forms of self-respect, I believe, this is what I believe, is adjustment, not confrontation. You don't have to be confrontational to make adjustments in a relationship. And I think some of us have been conditioned to believe, that rah-rah has to come along with you making changes in a relationship. And that's just not true. That's not what grown women do. We don't need to. We don't need to do that. We possess quiet strength. So, sometimes the homecoming piece looks like less initiation. It looks like fewer emotional check-ins. It looks like shorter conversations. It looks like no future casting. No future casting. And it's not because you're trying to be cold or you're trying to be rude or you're trying to be standoffish. It's not because you're trying to punish anybody, but it's because you're listening to yourself. And you don't owe anybody a long explanation for your internal clarity. But you do owe yourself consistency with your values. That was good. Point 5, the grief of outgrowing a space. And we're going to name this honestly. It is grief. Anytime a relationship ends, I don't care what relationship it is. Anytime a relationship ends, you are going to grieve that relationship. There is oftentimes a sadness that accompanies the clarity that we get about a relationship. And it's not always because something terrible happened, but it can be because you're realizing what could have been. It just never was. And the grief is real. It's real. It's not necessarily real because you made the wrong choice. It's real because you cared. You loved. You opened yourself up. You were vulnerable. You trusted that this person could handle that level of vulnerability from you, and for whatever reason, their capacity couldn't handle it. And so the homecoming piece is where we allow the sadness to exist without letting it rewrite our decision to walk away. You gotta feel it to heal it. So it's all right to feel that sadness. It's all right to feel that grief. But don't let it overwrite your decision or rewrite your decision to walk away, because that decision is coming from discernment. Point 6, and this is my final point. Coming home to ourselves is not about rejecting everything else. It's more, I feel like it's more about an integration. It's like, it's the moment you say, I no longer want to build this attachment where there is no destination. There's nowhere else for us to go. So I cannot keep building a deeper and deeper attachment to this relationship when I know, and you know, and God knows, there's nowhere else for us to go. There's no destination. So I'm going to choose peace over possibility. I'm going to honor myself enough to stop negotiating. I'm not closing off my heart. I'm protecting my future. And I am allowing the momentum of my life to continue, even though it hurts, even though I might feel disappointed, even though I might feel like I lost some years that I can't get back. I felt like that, a couple years into my divorce. I felt like, wow, that's 40 years that I can't get back. 40 years of my life, from 13 to 53. And then God helped me look at it a different way. And I realized that had I not gone through that 40-year journey like one of the children of Israel, I would not be the woman that I am today. And the moment I had that realization, I lifted my hands and I said, God, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for my children. I thank you for their father, my former husband. I thank you, because come what may, he was and is an excellent father. And now he's a really great friend. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that 40-year journey, because it has brought me where I am right now in this season of the homecoming. Now, I just want to drop some scripture on you, because that's what we do over here on Fridays by the Fire. In Romans 12:11 in the Message Bible, it says, be alert, be present, fully present, stay in the day. Stay in the day. Psalms 119:59 says, take a good look at the way you're living. And if adjustments need to be made, don't be afraid to make them. These two scriptures are what really ground me. For me, they represent clarity, they represent wisdom, and they represent the homecoming season that I'm in. So if this resonated with you tonight, I need you to hear this and hear me clearly. You don't need drama to leave. You don't need justification to make the shift. You do not need permission to go home. And sometimes clarity changes the assignment. And the bravest thing that you can do is answer that call. So until next time, I want you to keep choosing yourself. You are such an important piece of this process. And God can use every situation in our life to make us better if we let Him. I want this homecoming season to help you be better. Thank you for joining me by the fire tonight. I'll see you next week for another episode of Fridays by the Fire. Y'all be good. God bless.